We're on the air, and if everyone would take their electronic devices and silence them, please. I hope I have mine silenced. And we'll begin with invocation by the Reverend Dr. John D. Freeman of the United AME Church and Wilberforce University and president of the Black Ministerial Alliance, the African American Ministerial Alliance, followed by Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Dale Lauterbach.
Heavenly Father, I come today with a bowed down head and thankful heart. Lord, we thank you for waking us up this morning and giving us the strength to come out to the city council meeting. We ask your blessings upon Vice President Wallace, Councilman Ursel, Councilman Lauterbach, Councilman Smith, Councilman Dean, and Mayor Sarah Mays, and President Engel. Lord, continue to give them the strength and courage and knowledge to lead your city to higher heights. And Lord, we pray that everything that is done here this evening will be done for the good of this community. City of Xenia, the city of hospitality. And Lord, we thank you and we praise you and we magnify your name. We ask that you bless us and keep us. Bless the United States of America. Bless the state of Ohio. And bless the city of Xenia.
Please.
In the mighty, matchless, miracle-working, incarnated, soon-to-come again Savior's name, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Duke, would you please call the roll?
Vice President Wallace.
Present.
Councilman Ursel.
Present.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilman Dean. Mayor Mays.
Here.
President Engel.
Thank you.
I understand that President Engel will not be here.
Yeah,
I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make the motion to excuse President Engel due to a medical issue tonight. Thank you.
Your second?
Second.
Would you call the roll, Mr. Duke?
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Ursel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And my understanding is that Councilman Dean will be here. He's just running a little late, and I thought I was going to be, but we'll proceed. At this time, Chair will entertain a motion regarding approval of minutes.
So moved, Mr. Vice President.
Is there a second?
A second.
Call the roll, Mr. Duke. Oh, any discussion? I'm sorry. Any corrections or any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Ursel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
At this time, there's a special presentation. Marty Heidi, outreach for Congressman Mike Turner's office, Ohio's new driver's license and identification card, compliant versus standard. Ms.
Thank you. I'm here tonight. I go around Greene County and Fayette County and sort of talk about interesting things that are going on, sometimes more at the state level, but with a federal influence. And tonight I want to talk about the new driver's license. I passed out sort of a flyer on it. This was enacted in 2018, and we have the Ohio joined several other states in making the driver's license federally compliant with TSA and the Department of Homeland Security. So the driver's license is simple. You can either get a compliant driver's license or you can get a non-compliant one. They cost the same. So there's no issue of cost, but the difference is if you get a standard driver's license, when you check in for a flight to Florida or any domestic flight, you will have to carry your non-compliant driver's license in addition to a separate identification, like a passport or a birth certificate. Whereas if you get the compliant driver's license, you can board the plane with that as your identification, and that is enough to be your complete identification. So now, they have the documents that you have to carry with you to the BMV. And I always tell people to check your driver's license and see when it expires, because that's something we kind of just assume is going along. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you bring your proof of citizenship, your birth certificate or a passport. You bring your social security card, and you also bring proof of residency that matches your driver's license. This is to renew it. Proof of residency is a utility bill or something that's mailed to you. If you get a standard document, you really don't have to bring all that. It tells you what you need, but you do need your social security number and proof of residency. So my point here is to just go for the compliant. It just makes a lot more sense if you have all these documents. And I'm a supporter of passports. I like to promote passports because they are an excellent source of identity document, and you have it for 10 years. And passports are done through the National Passport Service, Department of State, and they're $110 for 10 years. So that's kind of what I'm promoting tonight. But this is in case anybody from Xenia asks about the driver's license. This is what it is, and it's a little bit of a pain, but I think that eventually all the states will be jumping on board with this program. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm just looking at my driver's license. It expires 12/25. What's that say, Councilman?
Oh, it expired in 2016. No, 2020.
Thank you. 2020.
Okay.
I'm glad the police hadn't pulled me over.
That's right.
But anyway, are you suggesting I go now?
I would
before
wait.
it expires and get my?
I would wait until the fall of 2020, because by October of 2020, October 1st is the deadline. So anything that expires after 2020 will be basically needing to be replaced. And that's in that little gray box about renewing early.
Okay.
So,
So Marty, the difference with, so today, if Dale or I went in and our license had not expired, we just would bring in our current driver's license for the standard, and we would renew. We wouldn't need any additional documentation, correct?
That's
But
correct.
the difference is, even though I bring in an unexpired driver's license, if I want to get the compliant one, I have to bring in all of the
Correct.
documentation, even though my license, I'm just saying that's not something we're used to.
I know,
Right,
I know,
right.
right.
And so I think that the main message is whether your license is expired or unexpired, that's irrelevant. Really, your current Ohio State ID that you're carrying is not gonna help you at all. You have to go back to all the basic documentation and bring that in.
That's
To get
correct.
the new compliant. Is
That's
that correct?
Right.
Right.
Now, they will give you back your driver's license, but you will not walk out with your new driver's license, because it takes about 2 or 3 weeks for them to process it and mail it to you. So that's a little bit different. They will give you a letter, the BMV will give you a letter saying you've appeared.
Right.
So if your license expires, you have this with your old driver's license that shows anybody that has a question that you have applied for and renewed your
Right.
current
And
driver's
I don't
license.
believe that today, even if I went and got a standard one, that they would give it to me over the counter. I think that's mailed out as well. I get the same kind of.
Yes, that is correct,
Right.
yes.
So either case, if I renew, I'm not getting a license that day.
Mm-hmm.
But the item with the compliant is you have to make sure you have the full set of documentation there.
Yes,
Right.
yes, you do.
Yeah, Councilman
So
Smith.
my question, are they going to issue these locally? Because I have an issue with all the effort that you have to prove your identity, and then this is put in the mail that could be misdelivered to anybody. There's so much mistakes
True.
in the mail that what happens if I don't get this in the mail in 2 to 3 weeks and someone
You
else
call
has
them
my
up and tell them,
identity?
but, yeah.
But then I have my ID floating out there. So I would really like to see you guys issue these at the local BMV to eliminate that chance of error. Is that ever gonna happen?
I don't think so.
Wow, okay.
I don't think so. And they mail them and you
Cross
hope
your
that the
fingers.
post
Right.
office delivers them timely. If you don't get it between 2 and 3 weeks, then obviously you would call the BMV and say, hey, I was there, I didn't get my driver's license. You said 2 or 3 weeks, it's been 4, what's going on? So,
You
and
sure
then,
we shouldn't call you?
pardon me?
You sure we shouldn't call you?
No, no. You certainly can, you certainly may.
So
That-
as a representative of our federal representative, which is
Mm-hmm.
what Mr. Turner is, really, this is a state-run program.
This is,
Right,
and
so
I'm
this is
here,
being issued by the Ohio BMV.
Right.
Not by the federal government, although the federal government is requiring this through the TSA if we're gonna participate
right.
in anyone with Homeland Security and access through those types of things.
That's
And I
correct.
would also say too, for those of us that, since Wright Pat's so large, when we go to other installations, many times we have to have 2 proofs of ID when we go to the Pentagon. And at this
Mm-hmm.
point, we not only would have to have our normal military ID, and we normally do that plus a driver's license. Well, we can't use this Ohio driver's license to get access to the Pentagon or to the other bases at that point. So we would have to have a passport or another secondary document at that point, so.
right now,
However-
because.
No, well,
With
as
the-
of this date, that's correct.
Right.
And so it isn't just with Homeland Security, it's also with the Department of Defense isn't going to be
Right.
recognizing state IDs that are not compliant anymore.
That's correct,
But
and,
this
and,
document, this compliant document will be available to get you on the right path after it's issued.
right,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Any
And
other
that's,
questions?
and that's, they say federal buildings and through TSA checkpoints.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Madam Mayor, did you have a question?
No, sir?
Well, thank you so much. We
I
appreciate
also just quickly handed out a thing on the social security scam that's going on. People are calling, asking people for their, so I didn't have enough for everybody, so share. But there's a number to call the OIG. If a lot of senior citizens are targets for this, unfortunately, but Social Security is encouraging people, if they get a call, to report it immediately, and the number is there, it's a toll-free number. The Social Security does not call and never asks for a Social Security
Well,
number.
we know they never
On
respond to
the
a call,
phone.
we got
Right.
that. I'm just sorry.
They wait for a letter. You have to wait for something in writing, and so is the IRS,
That's right.
to your point,
That's right.
yeah.
That- I haven't read this yet, obviously, because I just saw it, but I actually received, and I knew it was a scam, because I know Social Security doesn't call. I mean, I spent 20-plus years in the VA, and I know the VA, the Social Security doesn't call. But I've had these folk call me and tell me they were Social Security, and my Social Security number has been used in Texas, and they've frozen my Social Security number and so forth.
I know.
I said, thank you, I appreciate the information, and hang up.
Yeah.
But this same number is something that I ought to call if I get my caller ID identifies that number.
Well, if you don't, you can just call and say, I got this, and if you don't have caller ID or have time to write it down, but just call and say that you received, and they'll probably ask for your number to run it.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Anything else that you want to tell us about going on with Congressman Turner and
Just busy,
the big city of DC?
just busy.
Okay. Any other questions? Administrative staff, any?
Marty, it looks like all we really need is a little stamp to put the little star on it there, on the
And I
standard one.
think you can pick that up at the dollar
That's right.
store,
So
yeah.
it'll be okay. Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you,
you
Marty.
being with us tonight. All right, audience comments. It's now time for audience comments, and if there's anyone here that would like to comment on anything, please come forward, give us your name and address, and share. Try to limit your time to 3 to 5 minutes, please. Seeing no one, we'll move right along to old business. First item on the agenda is resolution number 2019-I, second reading, providing for assessments to be levied and authorizing the finance director to certify those assessments to the Greene County Auditor. It was originally introduced by me, and I will move the passage if I can get a second, please.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Mr. Duke, would you please, are there any questions, comments? Any thoughts? Mr. Duke, please call the roll.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
We have no public hearings tonight, so we're now at the place of new business. And the first item on the agenda with new business is resolution number 2019J, authorizing the city manager to execute a 3-year House revolving loan fund administration agreement with the Ohio Development Services Agency for the use of CDBG and/or home funds and declaring an emergency. That was presented by the city manager, and he'll now explain it further to us. Please.
Thank you, sir. As indicated, we are recommending adoption of the resolution authorizing the execution of this 3-year House Revolving Loan Fund Administration Agreement with the Ohio Development Services Agency. This is required by the state of Ohio to participate in such programs. The city is required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, and ODSA to enter into the House Revolving Loan Fund Administration Agreement on a 3-year basis, and we've come to that point that we need to renew this. The purpose of the agreement is to maintain adequate program oversight and ensure that communities, Xenia, for example, understand and adhere to the terms in conjunction with administering this particular program under state and federal guidelines. So we recommend approval as an emergency this evening.
Is one of my colleagues prepared to make a motion regarding?
So moved as an emergency.
Thank you, Councilman Lauterbach.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Are there any questions or any discussion?
So Brent, is this, I'm looking down under your recommendation context, and it looks like this is primarily driven by, we need to do this so that CHIP funds can be made available here locally, is that correct? I'm just trying to understand the end effect of this.
Yeah, so for use of any grant resources as well as existing funds that we would call program income funds. So those are funds that, whether it's a loan payback, monies from grants previously that we keep, we have to be in compliance with all of the provisions for administration of the programs. This agreement basically stipulates that we'll comply with all of those, both federal and state requirements. So we have to have an approval of the contract on record in order to be able to utilize those funds.
Right. This doesn't commit us to utilize, it just provides the basis of the ability to
Correct.
utilize, is that correct?
Correct.
Any other questions, comments?
There are no dollar amounts mentioned in the
Right,
agreement.
right.
Mr. Duke, would you please call the roll?
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
We do have, in front of you, you have a resolution. This one is a walk-on. It's not on the agenda, but it's provided in front of all of us. And it's strongly urging the resolution number 2019K, strongly urging the Ohio governor and members of the Ohio General Assembly to restore the local government fund to pre-recession levels and declaring an emergency. I would need a motion to put this on the agenda and move it for passage, please. Do we need one motion or two for that, Danette?
A motion in a second.
Probably just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one will do.
Okay, a motion to put it on the agenda and move it for passage
For consideration.
as an emergency.
So moved as an emergency.
Moved by the mayor and seconded by
Second.
Councilman Lauterbach. I would like to exercise chair prerogative of saying how happy I am that we are finally doing this, and I guess we really couldn't have done it a whole lot sooner because we didn't have the opportunity under the previous governor, but now that we have a new governor, hopefully he will be amenable to at least hearing from us. And I would like to ask if we know how many other municipalities, counties, townships are also doing this.
We don't have that number yet. What I can tell you is that this has been a primary objective of the Ohio Municipal League moving into this legislative season to pursue restoration of these resources. It's been the issue that I think the league has been trying to work with legislators and the new governor on, among other things, but this is probably the central issue that they have, based on feedback from communities like Xenia, that they recognize as a challenge. I think there is broad statewide support at the municipal level as well as county and township level. This affects all of the local governments, and we can probably get more information as we get a little further down the pike here in terms of how many total communities have passed resolutions, but we don't have that data available today. And again, essentially what this resolution is encouraging is the new governor in the state to restore those local government fund resources back to the pre-recession levels. The state has balanced its budget and has built up a very hefty rainy day fund following the reduction of the local government funds, much to the detriment of communities across the state.
Exactly.
Over that same period of time, as has been pointed out in the draft resolution this evening, we've endured additional unfunded mandates and attempts at the state level to reduce our ability to collect income taxes, among other things that have had a net adverse impact on our resources here locally. And for those who are unaware of the history of local government funds, these are resources that were given up by localities decades ago in an exchange that the state would then utilize those resources and distribute them across the state and share the capacity of those resources. For the state to have come back in the last decade and undercut that agreement and set it aside has had really very devastating effects on local communities, and start right here. The loss of these funds, more than $500,000 per year, in addition to other cuts that we've endured that total well over $1 million a year in lost revenue to our community. And that has had an effect on our ability to provide core services like fire, police, parks, streets.
Not to mention roads.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not to mention roads. Mr.
Yeah, I'd
Councilman
just
Hyde.
like to comment, and I've said this before, Governor Casey's balanced his budget on the backs of cities like Xenia. I think pre-recession, what we get, 500,000 to 600,000?
Yeah, so pre-recession in local government funds, it was a little over 1.2 million is about where we were.
Really?
And now we're receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of 750,000. So it's about $500,000 in the local government fund.
Each year.
That has been cut, and to Mr. Merriman's point, that's on top of other revenues we've lost. For example, the estate tax, which in some years by itself would generate $500,000, depending on the scenario. But on average, that was $300,000 to $400,000 a year, and also the elimination of the personal property tax reimbursement, which was in the neighborhood of $200,000 a year that we were receiving for that. So all those total up to a little over $1 million. There were other things that were done here in the recent past at the state level that hurt us as well. Things like consolidating franchise fees at the state level rather than leaving that to municipalities to govern, which hurt us as well. It's more on the expense side of things than the revenue. But yeah, the local government fund itself is around $500,000 in cuts that we've seen over the last several years.
And to your point, there's $3.1 billion with a B
With the rainy day.
in the rainy day fund. And to Councilman Wallace's point, if we could just get half of that, if the street levy would have passed, that would have generated $1.3 million for 10 years. We just, like it or not, we got a gas tax. It's going to amount to about $500,000 to the city. If we could get some of these funds returned to the city, that would take care of the roads without taxing people.
Absolutely.
So I think it's very important that we reach out to Governor DeWine and our legislators to get some of these funds back.
I think it's also important to point out, we are certainly acknowledging that our former state leadership didn't do a whole lot to help us out. On the other side of that coin, we have a state legislature right now, or members within, who are willing to have this discussion, and they should be credited for that. And we have a governor that understands the plight at the local level, the challenge that we face, all the services that we provide front end, face to face to local residents, and we're struggling to do that. And this governor, for a change, understands that. So I do want to give some acknowledgement to leadership in Columbus that they're willing to have some of this discussion, because this is an invitation to have discussion that we were not afforded the past 8 years.
Yeah. So Brent, if I understand right, this actually goes back to the 1930s, these agreements made
Correct.
between
Yep.
local municipalities and the state.
Yep.
and basic agreements from the local municipalities that we will not do things like sales tax and other flavors of tax. We would allow the state to do that from an efficiency perspective.
Yep.
And the agreement was that as they did the collection, they would also reimburse the municipalities.
Correct.
And that bargain was held up until the recession.
Yep.
And at that time, the state decided that they froze the increase of those funds for a period of time, and then they basically started feeding off of those funds
Yep.
to address the state deficits. And another figure that I saw was that about 70% of the municipalities in Ohio have had to pass either income or property tax levies to try and recover these
Correct.
funds. And just a comment too, that the income tax increase that we had a few years ago to go towards the roads doesn't even make up for the loss of those funds. So in terms of the balance of the budget, we actually, at the time that was brought on board, was at the same time we were losing a fairly substantial amount of dollars from this local government fund. So we actually didn't get an increase from that income tax. We were just trying to recover from the money that had been promised us by the state in terms of a pact between the municipalities and states that they were not honoring at that point.
Correct.
So really what we're asking for here is we're asking for the state legislature to honor that agreement that goes
Restore that
back,
agreement.
yeah,
Yep.
for almost 90 years
Yep.
at this point. And then the reality is folks need to, not only, when we're doing resolutions like this, in terms of municipalities, but individuals need to go to our state representatives. And folks can go back there and say, listen, listen to us. We would like you to be our advocate at the state level for these funds.
Well, these resources are coming from tax dollars that all of our residents
Right.
are paying. And
Exactly.
we're asking for those dollars to be returned back to our local citizens, that we can provide those services locally. And again, it's testimony to what's occurred since this change. As Councilman Lauterbach pointed out, not only do we see this significant rainy day fund that the state's accumulated, but net employment within the state ranks has increased substantively over the last 4 to 5 years, while local municipal employees had seen a decrease over the same period. So that ought to give testimony to what's been happening here. And I think certainly in this community, and I think the flavor of the council is, you'd rather have that local government, that local control to be able to provide services locally and not count on the state where they're not providing any resources meaningfully to speak of for fire and police and such.
I guess Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, do we have a section in here that speaks to the point that Councilman Urschel raised about urging citizens to contact their legislative representatives, the state representatives and state senators?
We did not put that in the resolution. It is something that I hope any citizen watching tonight will do.
Right.
Exactly.
We've made the point, it's very important they understand this is their tax dollars.
Their tax dollars and
all
their
we're asking is
representatives.
those tax dollars come back here.
So
There is
our
no-
representatives here to local are,
Representative
Dean.
Dean, Senator
Hackett.
Hackett, and then I also included in the resolution to send copies to the Senate President and the President of the House.
Right.
And some
And
within
I would-
our viewing audience would also have Representative Perales
I
as
was
their
gonna
local
say,
Perales as
and I
well.
spoke to Representative Perales yesterday and spoke very
Right.
strongly about this. I spoke very specifically about the resolution we'd be passing. And I will tell you, I've also called Senator Hackett myself
right.
and spoke with him at length about this, and he was very receptive. I don't know that he was concerned about the pre-session levels as far as what will actually pass, but he was very receptive and very open to what I had to say, to our resolution, and understanding the importance of this. And I would say I was very impressed with the time that he spent talking to me about it.
Right.
And I would encourage folks to do the same. They were both very open to it, so.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
Councilman
had a
Smith?
question, if this passes tonight, which I'm assuming it will, can we get a press release about this for the city? Because I really think this is newsworthy. I think this should go to maybe even the Dayton Daily News or
A
Cox
press release that
Media.
would have phone numbers to
Yeah.
call.
And
Yeah.
encourage people to
Exactly.
call as well.
Well,
Yeah, we can certainly do
Well,
that.
I'd like to see something
Yes.
in the paper about this because, this is
Yes.
their tax dollars.
Right, so I mean, we need to do this
Phone
as
na-
a
phone numbers and
municipality
emails.
government, but our citizens individually can call their representatives and let them know that they're in
Yep.
favor of this as well too, and we desperately need
And
folks
they
to
will
do
take
that.
those calls and those emails
Right.
with me.
And that's why I asked the question, if we actually
There
included
we
in
go.
section
right.
6 or 7 now, to say that we're urging individuals to contact their specific representatives and urging other cities, townships, and counties to pass this resolution. If they don't have one of their own, we'd be happy to share ours with them. Because they can hear from 100% of the counties, townships, and cities across the state. I think that would certainly enhance the probability of passage and doing this.
Well, I could tell you, I spoke with the Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association. They sent me a draft this morning that they were working on to send out to all cities. Made some tweaks to it and send it back to them. So I think you will see more cities.
Awesome. That case, Mr. Duke, if you would, please call the roll.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you so much. At this time, we'll consider ordinance number 201909, an introduction. Mr. City Manager.
It is the policy of the city of Xenia that a developer of a subdivision that is interested in including streetlights within its subdivision must agree to a streetlight assessment for the benefiting lots within that new subdivision. Accordingly, M1 Development LLC, the developer for the Sterling Green Crossing Subdivision Section 3, has received a cost to install 9 streetlights along with monthly electricity fee per the city's contract with Miami Valley Lighting. We are reminded that the developer is responsible for the initial cost to install the lights, but the city then takes responsibility for paying for those monthly electricity costs as we do for all of our other streetlights across the city. Council previously adopted the required resolution of necessity to establish street lighting district number 3 on March 28th of this year. This is the second step in the street lighting assessment process, and after the third and final step, streetlight assessment will be included on the individual lot owner's property tax duplicate from the Greene County Auditor. Based upon the City of Xenia's current contract with Miami Valley Lighting and including the administrative fees associated with the continued assessment of each lot on a yearly basis, the owner of the 46 lots the owner of each of the 46 lots within Section 3 of the Crossing subdivision would pay an annual fee of $23.41. Street lighting assessment will be included on the individual lot owner's property taxes. We're recommending a 2-year period on the assessments, as the assessments for street lighting district number 1 and 2 will both expire in 2022. This will allow us to align all of those at on the same basis and simplify that for us in the future.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. So introduced. Then now there's an administrative, no, we don't need any vote on that. That's just an introduction. Item number C, an administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Johnson, Murmuran, and Thompson at a cost not to exceed, $122,423 for inspection services associated with the 2019 Water Tower Painting Project. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Xenia's Public Service Department is scheduled in our capital improvement plan for advanced maintenance of our Spring Hill Water Tower and the 2 older Patton Street standpipes that scheduled to occur later this spring. This principally involves reconditioning and repainting functions. In anticipation of commencing this water tower painting project, the city does need to contract for services for painting inspection with a qualified firm that has the experienced professionals, the requisite knowledge to provide the inspection services during the painting of those water appurtenances. City sought bids for the service, and on April 2nd of this year received 2 proposals from qualified firms with the necessary experience to inspect the towers. The fee proposals that were submitted are from Johnson, Murmuran, and Thompson Incorporated and from World International Testing Incorporated. Johnson, Murmuran, and Thompson has been vetted and demonstrated extensive experience in performing the needed functions, and they were the lower bidder. Staff is recommending a contract with the firm in a not-to-exceed amount of $122,423 as submitted.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Lauterbach. And a second.
Second.
Councilman Smith, we thank you. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Mr. Vice President, just to remind the council and our viewing audience that these are all water funds out of our water capital, and this has been scheduled in our 5-year CIP. So something that needs to be done, and this is part of that process to ensure that it's done properly.
It's not money that could be used for other purposes.
Certainly not for streets.
It must be used for these purposes. Mr. Duke, would you call the roll, please?
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Administrative motion, item number D, of reappointing 2 members to the Economic Development Advisory Board, and that is the board that I am privileged to chair on behalf of the council. And I'd like to, those names again are, I don't have, those names again are David Thompson, who is one of the vice presidents of the Y, and Mr. Forrest Wilson, who was appointed to an unexpired, to a term, I don't remember the name of the gentleman who we replaced. Steve?
I believe that was Mr. Ronay.
Mr. Ronay moved out of the area, and Mr. Forrest Wilson explained that, told me at the last meeting that he would love to be reappointed, and I said, get us a letter to that effect, and we'll see to it that it happens. So on behalf of the council and these 2 gentlemen, I would move that we reappoint them. I'd like to have a second from one of my colleagues.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Duke, any questions? Mr. Duke, would you please call the roll?
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Administrative motion number E, administrative motion of authorizing the city manager to execute the partnership agreement with Greene County for FY 2019 Community Housing Impact and Preservation CHIP Program grant. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. As previously mentioned with our CDBG public hearing number 1, staff is recommending an administrative motion to approve the execution of the partnership agreement with Greene County that will subsequently authorize the county jointly on our behalf to apply for an FY 2019 Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program grant. The Ohio Development Services Agency Office of Community Development has again provided an opportunity for cities and counties to jointly apply for the grant program and then allow for a joint administration of that, and this would be through Greene County. The city was successful and received and executed a 2014 CHIP grant. In partnership with Greene County, we applied in 2018 but were unsuccessful. The joint city-county partnership would allow us to be eligible for up to $400,000 in CHIP funding in 2019 if the agreement is authorized and the grant is awarded. With the additional funding for senior residents through the partnership with the county, this arrangement will greatly reduce the burden placed on our staff by taking advantage of the county's capacity to manage as the managing partner here. As part of the agreement, the county will provide $100,000 in home program income toward owner-occupied rehab, and the city would provide $55,000 in home program income to that program, in addition to $38,000 in CDBG program income for the owner-occupied repair program. These funds are included in the 2019 budget. It's important to remember these are limited-use funds. They can only be related for, or utilized for these types of services, and so we see value in the program and certainly value in the partnership with the county, and we recommend council approve the motion.
Chair, I entertain a motion regarding passage of this motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Lauterbach. Second, thank you, Councilman Smith. Any questions? Any comments?
Brent, who assuming that we're successful this year, who would be the manager, co-manager from the city perspective of these funds?
So our key contact is Ryan Baker, our community development coordinator, and Ryan works hand in hand with the county development department. And I want to give the county office kudos here. They've been very cooperative, very willing to work with us. There's a much greater combined impact working with the county for our residents here locally in Xenia.
Right.
And it certainly reduces the administrative burden we have through their partnership efforts.
And then I'm assuming through, is this principally managed by the county then that we're participating in? And,
Yeah.
and would our residents then apply for these funds?
Yeah, so we would certainly provide any assistance for folks who would contact the city directly, but the majority of those program administration functions would run through the county. But again, folks can contact Ryan, can contact Steve in our office,
Yeah.
and we'll make those connections. But they'll principally manage the program for us.
Right, and do you have just the general criteria that folks have to meet to be able to access
Yeah, there
these funds?
income eligibility has to be an eligible, the location has to be an eligible CDBG tract. Steve, anything else off the top of your head?
It's based on household, so they have to meet household
Income requirements, yeah.
as defined by the state and by HUD.
ineligible, CDBG eligible
Well,
trackers?
actually, it doesn't matter the track, because it goes by individual
Okay.
household. So long as the individual household meets the criteria, they can then participate in the program. And since the county we have done this with the county, approximately 70% of the funds received have been spent within the city limits of Xenia.
How do we advertise this, assuming these funds are allocated? How do we advertise, how would our citizens become aware of the program and know that they might be eligible to participate in it?
Quite honestly, right now, we have a waiting list,
Okay.
and obviously, folks on the waiting list would get priority.
Right.
We have not had to advertise because we've had more than sufficient demand, actually more demand than we have dollars to meet, so.
But certainly as a course of action for us, typically be website, other social media platforms, that sort of thing, are typical communication mediums.
And quite often, city staff, if our property maintenance folks, for example,
Yeah.
or Green County Building Inspection, if they're called out because of concerns, they will let them know that there is assistance available to help correct these issues.
Right.
And we've had a couple of really good examples of that type of inter-office cooperation with the last round that we did, where we were able to identify through our code enforcement some opportunities that we were then able to leverage some solutions through this program.
How voluminous is that waiting list, Steve?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Because frankly, I personally think that even though there's a waiting list, I think it still needs to be widely advertised to our citizenry so that they can get on that list, no matter how long it is.
Right.
Because if we don't know about it, and if citizens don't know about it, they obviously won't be able to apply for it, even if there is a waiting list.
So we send out information with utilities billings at some periodic level. Is this something that, assuming this grant is done, could we also notify through the utility billings?
Yeah, that would be an option to post a message on utility.
Yeah, you're talking about just a note on the
Yeah.
bills.
You're limited in the number of characters you can
Yeah,
have there.
yeah,
but-
we could certainly do that.
Right, because, there are a lot of folks that aren't necessarily accessing the particular social media parts, but majority of our citizens are getting utility bills.
Yeah.
Right?
Most,
Right? That's right.
not all. Councilman Louderback, did I hear your thoughts?
Oh, I didn't say that.
Madam Mayor,
I'm good, thank you.
Councilman Smith? Okay, so we've already had a motion on that, right? Let's call the roll.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mayor Mays.
Hi.
Motion carried.
And last but not least, approval of item number F, an administrative motion approving the scheduled bills in the amount of $347,183.67. I can't wait to get to the day when the finance director is going to take care of this personally, but in the meantime, we'd like to have a motion to authorize him to pay the bill.
So moved.
Councilman Louderback, and I'll second that motion. Call the roll.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, sir. The item number 11, reports of committees, mayor and managers. And Madam Mayor, I think this is your time, well, city manager and then the mayor. So.
I'm deferring to the mayor this evening. I was
Thank you
unable to.
very
All
much.
right, sir.
The city of Beaver Creek was our host. We met at the Beaver Creek Golf Club. And there was no business that evening. However, we did have a presentation. It's called Milo Range Multiple Interactive Learning Objective. And it is a interactive, almost like a video game is what I'm gonna call it, where they put up screens and the officers have training that they can use, and there's different scenarios that they present to you, and
Law
you
enforcement
decide-
scenario.
Yeah, law enforcement, you decide if you should be drawing your weapon, if you should be drawing your taser and whatnot, and I will just tell you that I should not be on law enforcement. I failed miserably, and we're gonna leave it at that, so it was a very interesting evening.
You saying you're trigger happy?
No, I was not trigger happy enough. They encouraged me that I should have drawn my gun much sooner. The bar fight went very badly for some people. And I was still behind them saying, "Sir," and they, no,
Didn't listen to
it
you.
was not good.
Yeah.
But it was a really interesting evening, and they're very proud of that. They let, I know they try to include other areas to officers to come and use that training, and it's very interesting. Not a lot of people were brave to do it, but it was very interesting, very humbling.
Awesome. Anything else, ma'am?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, next is item B, Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. April meeting was canceled, but Councilman Lauterbach, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Nothing new to add, thank you.
All right, sir. The item number 12, appointed officials' reports and council comments. City manager at this time, sir.
Yeah, I do have a couple items. First, I want to remind everyone that the first Friday of our season is coming up for May, next week, believe it or not. Hard to
Wow.
believe we're here. So we want to encourage folks to come out to downtown Xenia, starting at 5 p.m. next Friday. All kinds of activities, food vendors. Come out, share some time that evening with your community, see what's going on. Lots of things for the kids to do and for families. We encourage folks to come out, support local businesses and local entities that'll be there. And again, our first Fridays for this year will run the months of May, June, and July. Of course, the July event works in conjunction with our fireworks festival. So again, next Friday, we encourage folks to come out. We are also committing to make sure that we are promoting job opportunities within our community. We want to try to fill those job openings with local residents as much as possible. And so I wanted to bring light tonight to two opportunities that are out there. The city is currently accepting applications to establish an eligibility list for 2 positions. Labor and maintenance worker, the filing deadline for that is April 29th at 5 p.m. And water treatment plant operator, the filing deadline for that is May 3rd this year at 5 p.m. In order to do so, we have instructions on our website that indicate exactly the procedures you need to take to do that. For specific information, you can contact our Human Resources Director, Jackie Potter, 376-7273. All applicants must, for these tests, must pass the position-specific civil service exam with a score of 70% or higher. And again, lots of details on our website specifically about that in that process. So we encourage folks to look at that. We also are still accepting applications for lateral transfers for firefighters. So that's existing firefighters in other jurisdictions for lateral transfers. Finally
Brent,
tonight,
we've announced the next civil service exam date, is that correct?
yeah, so we will utilize those applications to formulate the testing schedule essentially.
Okay.
Yep. Finally, I just wanted to recognize City Manager's Office has been working with Xenia Community Schools with their XStar program, and we hosted yesterday, I don't even know, 5 or 6 groups of about 10 kids per group, talking about municipal government, how we operate. They got to sit in your chairs. Don't get too close to your microphones because they were using them, and you never know, your germs might spread. We're hosting more groups tomorrow.
Did you mention that to them before they got too close to the microphone?
No, I encouraged them to lick the microphone. No, in all seriousness, they were thrilled to be here to experience a little bit of what it's like behind the scenes in terms of operating municipality, and we're thrilled to have that partnership with the schools and look forward to more partnerships. We'll have the rest of their XStar students that'll be coming through tomorrow. So we'll be spending a good portion of the day tomorrow doing that. But I want to thank the teachers and my staff, Carly and Jared, who helped to get that set up. Really enjoyed that event and look forward to more of those partnerships in the future.
So that means they got to see all the notes they're laying out here that Dale and I write to each other then?
Well, and they had some creative ideas. I asked them, one of the questions I asked was, any laws that they would like the council to consider for the city.
And they are?
One of note was that everyone is entitled to a purple unicorn, I believe was the description.
Oh, very nice.
Eliminating all taxes because taxes are bad. So yeah, there were some creative ideas, but we had some good discussions.
So they have some things to learn, though.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, no one likes taxes, but as we talked with them, they're a necessary evil to provide for the good of our
Necessary.
community. So.
Exactly. Did they fight over the mayor's chair? Did they?
Both the council president and the mayor.
Very nice, I like
Yes,
that.
yeah. The gavel was very enticing for them.
Very good, very good.
It's enticing for all of us, really. Come now.
Anything else, Mr. City Manager?
That is all I have.
Mr. Finance Director?
I
Sorry.
have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting a lot of questions about West Second Street. what they've done so far is 100% improvement.
Yeah.
But I understand there's a lot more to be done.
Yeah, it's 100% improvement, but it is not 100% complete. So as we announced to council here a few weeks ago, they have gone through and they've done the initial restoration of base. They have now put on what we call a traveling course, or excuse me, a leveling course or traveling course. That levels the roadway out, but that is not the final layer of asphalt. They will be returning later this summer, date that we don't have specifically, but probably high summer, to put that final level of asphalt down. In the meantime, you will also see crews that will begin to do some concrete restoration. That includes some curbing restoration. I think we have a couple of ADA ramps that there will be some repairs for. We have some driveway aprons that will be replaced as well. So you'll see some of those intermittent crews out working to do the concrete restoration. The contractor technically has until early October to finish the work. I think it's likely you'll see the work done before then. But the important point to your question, Councilman, is no, they're not done. There'll be another final layer of asphalt that will level everything out and will seal all those joints with all the abutting roadways along 2nd Street.
Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Vice President Wallace. Just wanted to thank our accounts receivable department. This last couple weeks has been pretty crazy for them. They did a terrific job in getting a lot of taxpayers through lines and preparing a whole lot of returns. On April 15th, we had some pretty lengthy lines, but they did a great job of getting those people through as quickly as possible. I want to thank the public for their patience as they waited for the returns to be processed. But I want to thank them. They've also done a really good job in beginning to process those returns, and they're processing them at a rate that's probably as fast as we've ever gotten them in. So I'll have an update at the end of April for council on my monthly financial update that gives you an idea of where the income taxes ended up at the end of April. As we've said all along, I think the end of May is probably the better indication for where we will end, but April will still be fairly telling. So we'll get that update to you pretty quickly, and one of the reasons that we can give you a decent idea of where we're going to land in April is because they've processed those returns so quickly. So wanted to thank them for doing that, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Madam Law Director.
I thought we might take a few minutes and talk about chalking tires. The 6th District issued an opinion on Monday. It blew up over national and local media on Tuesday. I just wanted to take a few minutes to review the case with you. The case is Taylor versus Saginaw. And the background is between 2014 and 2017, Ms. Taylor received about 15 parking citations within the city of Saginaw in Michigan. Michigan, Tennessee, Ohio, and Kentucky make up the 6th District. She filed a lawsuit in 2017 against the city of Saginaw, alleging that her Fourth Amendment rights were violated because chalking her tires was an illegal search. The district court dismissed her case. The city filed a motion to dismiss, and it was granted. The case that we saw come out just this past week was from the appellate court. And basically what that decision did was it did not rule that chalking tires is an illegal search. You see that in the media, that's not quite correct. What the 6th District Court of Appeals did was reinstate Ms. Taylor's case and remanded it back to the district court level. What they did hold, there's a standard for searches that the courts have used since about 1967. The court did not use that standard. There was a case in 2012, United States versus Jones, where the court introduced, the U.S. Supreme Court introduced this new property-based standard. And that was the case where they held that the police cannot put a GPS tracker on someone's vehicle without a warrant. That's the case the 6th Appellate District used to make this decision. If there's a contact with the car under Jones, they held that was a search. Whether or not it's an illegal search depends on, do you have a warrant? Is a warrant required? There are a number of exceptions to the warrant requirement. They have remanded the case back to the district court to review those exceptions to see if any of them apply. So that case isn't over. We haven't heard the last of it. You may have saw the article in the paper today. We had already had plans here at the city level to switch to something called eChalk. It's a handheld device. There's no mark put on the vehicle. That's probably a couple weeks away. In the interim, you will see signs go up downtown, anywhere we have time limit signs. That will probably be about the end of the week. The signs will basically say, drivers who park here consent to the enforcement of time limits, including chalking of tires or other enforcement measures. So we're putting those up in the interim. All cities in Ohio, Michigan, Tennessee, and Kentucky are basically waiting to see. Could be another year or two before we finally get a decision. But it did not hold, that case did not hold that chalking tires was illegal. It held it was a search, and it remanded that case back to see any of the exceptions to the warrant requirement applied. So when we hear more on that case, I'll let you know. There's been a lot of misinformation about that case that's gone out over the week. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and explain it to you.
Mr. Louderback, Councilman Louderback.
My personal opinion, if you're a senior citizen, this 79 cents will get you a cup of coffee, senior cup of coffee at McDonald's. This is one of the most frivolous lawsuits I've seen. And how many, from this court, when they've appealed it to the Supreme Court, how many times have they won?
I did a little research. 24 of the 25 last decisions issued by this appellate court have been reversed by the U.S. Supreme Court.
And this one will be reversed also. So I'm not in any, I know you guys got to do what you have to do, but I'm not worried about it.
Might add, the easy way around this is to put meters everywhere, but I don't think you guys want to do that, so.
Is to put what?
Meters. I don't think that'd be very popular,
Mr.
however.
Vice President,
Yes, sir.
there's some folks that, I'm assuming you guys thought the meeting was 7 o'clock. I know I hope I'm not out of order.
No, in fact, thank you.
I didn't know if you wanted to speak to us, or,
That would be appropriate, sure.
well, that's up to you guys.
It's, I'm gonna deem it appropriate if you have something that you'd like to say.
I would actually.
Now, please step forward, introduce yourself, give us your name and address for the record, and have that.
My name is Joel Betterly, 468 Cottage Grove Avenue here in Xenia. The reason I came to the council today was because there's an alleyway that sits right next to my home. It's a very steep alleyway. In fact, during the wintertime, it is so steep that it ices over, and it is very dangerous to even walk down it. Unfortunately, my garage and my neighbor's garages are all up on that hill, so coming down it during the wintertime is nearly impossible. One of the things that's really pressing, though, is that the neighborhood children love to take their bicycles up the hill, being children like they are, and they love to fly down it on their bicycles. There's a lot of cars that travel along Cottage Grove Avenue. They
the
travel
bottom of the
between
hill.
25 and 45 miles an hour. They're gonna get hit. These children are in extreme danger, but, you know, they're kids. They're not gonna change what they do. So what I'm looking for from the council is that possibly if there's a way that we could put a speed hump or some kind of device to slow down cars on Cottage Grove right there at that alley, just to give the kids a chance to not get hit, because this way cars would have to slow down in order to not to go over that hump. You understand? That way, if the kids are coming down, the cars will slow down. It gives the kids a fighting chance, and that's what I'm looking to do. The other thing that I'd like to do is the grade on that hill is so very steep. We get about 100 cars a day that go up and down that alleyway. When they come down with the trailers, because it's so steep when they go down, it's actually digging out Cottage Grove Avenue. It's ridiculous. So the whole hill needs to be regraded and then repaved. And it needs to be at a proper angle. Otherwise, it's just going to continue destroying that particular road. So that's what I came here for the council to hear.
And your last name again, sir?
Betterly, B as in
Mr.
boy,
Betterly.
Etterly.
Mr. City Manager, that would be an appropriate referral for engineering or
In conjunction with.
for traffic. So we'll just refer that to you and to Mr. Dean and his committee to see if we can't do something correct. God knows we don't want a child killed down there, so.
Exactly. All right.
All right, thank you
Thank
for
you.
bringing it to our attention.
Yes.
And thank you.
For the folks watching tonight, we've changed our council meeting from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. I don't know if we advertised that.
It was published, yeah.
Was it published? Yeah, so just, I think you guys thought maybe.
I looked it up on the website and it showed at 7, but it didn't show that the meeting had changed
7
to
is the
6.
regular time.
Yeah,
We just,
from now until when?
Well, for tonight, we were gonna discuss through the summer moving the start to 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
but thank you for bringing that to our attention, sir. And we don't mind going out of order to hear citizens' comments, so. Okay, thank you. Madam Law Director, was there anything else that you had?
That was all.
That was it. In that case, we're at appointed officials, council comments at this point. Mayor and council, and Madam Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We'll begin with Sunday, April 14th. I attended Jacob Fox's Eagle Scout ceremony. I know he was here on that Thursday, but we actually had a chance to go to his ceremony and celebrate the pinning of his eagle, the eagle pin. And President Engel was also there, and it was a lovely afternoon. On Thursday, April 18th, the city welcomed McKinley first graders here to the city building, very similar to what you've been doing all week. They came in here, they got to see themselves on TV, they sat here in our seats and had to control the gavel a little bit as well. Asked some very interesting questions and also had some ideas of laws that we'll just let go. So it was a very fun afternoon. I'm glad that they came out. That same day, myself, Councilman Urschel, Mr. Baker, Mr. Holloway, we participated in a town hall style meeting that some Cedarville University social work major students put on regarding homelessness in Xenia. They specifically talked a lot about Simon Kitten Bridges of Hope, and it was a very open conversation, a very honest conversation, and I think they did a great job. I want to congratulate those students for the effort that they put into it, and I think it gave us at the table a lot to think about and a lot to work through, so congratulations to them. On Saturday, April 20th, it was the community Easter egg hunt, and despite the cold, rainy winter day, bookended by beautiful days, it was actually a really good turnout. We had a lot of fun. There's a lot of people to thank. A lot of the council came out, Councilman Urschel, thank you for emceeing. But the group that I really wanted to note was our firefighters who donated some baskets and were actually present. And then our public service workers, they took a collection out of their own pocket and put together 15 or 20 baskets, and they were really nice Easter baskets. They did a phenomenal job. They had the park looking beautiful. They had fresh mulch. They brought stakes for us to make the areas, and they just were really invested. And I want to congratulate them and thank them for the efforts that they put into this. We had a gentleman from Huffy Bike this year who donated 10 different bikes as well as a grand prize of a green machine. We've never had grand prizes before, so that was a lot of fun, to say the least. The kids were super excited about that, and I just wanted to thank Mr. Nix specifically for doing that. A lot of church involvement this year. One of the churches was cooking out. That made a really fun afternoon. We've never had that. So thanks to our volunteers, and just there was a lot of people who individually gave baskets, council members that gave baskets, churches, organizations. So thank you to the many people who worked on that. On Tuesday, April 23rd, I attended an event at the library that was put on by Amber Meyer for a homeschool group. She invited myself and a lot of different folks within our community to come and talk to the kids about volunteering, how you can volunteer in your community. And it was a really neat afternoon. They had some good ideas themselves. It was fun to share with them. On Wednesday, April 24th, Greene County Children's Services put on their Blue Ribbon Breakfast, and they do an awards breakfast where they give out awards for Advocates of the Year in 3 different categories. And I wanted to note that in the law enforcement category, the Xenia Police Criminal Investigation Unit won Advocate of the Year. And I was proud of them. I mean, everybody there was just so, they spoke very highly of this unit, and so it was a really neat morning, and I wanted to congratulate them specifically. Later that day, I was the guest speaker for the Greene County Council on Aging Senior Citizen Volunteer Recognition Luncheon, and they give out awards to the senior citizens who are involved within their senior centers. And so that was a neat room full of people who are invested deeply in this community, who give back, who work with their neighbors and seniors across Greene County. Let's see, today, April 25th, this morning we had our final broadcast of our Coffee with the Mayor. That was for the school year. The young lady, Nikese, will be back next year, and hopefully we'll do it again. Her special guest, she always has myself and then somebody else, and she had on Chief Rigsby this morning, and Chief did a great job talking about firefighter Dalton and what he did and saving the little girl's life, but we got a chance to talk about our fire division and the work that they do and to promote them. This afternoon was the Green Giving Annual Luncheon, and they put on a lunch where they are giving out different awards and giving out money, so that's just fun. I just wanted to remind people that next Thursday, May 2nd, is National Day of Prayer. I hope that people find a way to participate in that. I wanted to specifically mention that at 3:30, there's some of us who will be gathering at the courthouse to pray for our county, to pray for our city. Would invite folks to come and join us. So that's 3:30 at the courthouse. And just one last note, I stopped into a newer store here in town, Broken and Beloved. It's at 251 Bellbrook Avenue in Midtown, right behind Handyman. Christy Hutchison has opened this store, and I know that we talk about sometimes we want more retail, and this is a very small scale of that, but it's a great store, and she's got a lot of ladies' clothing items of all sizes. And if you haven't been in there yet, I would like to encourage you to stop by and check it out. Christy's doing a phenomenal job. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilman Lauterbach.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Nothing tonight.
I have nothing tonight.
Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'd just like to piggyback on what Mayor Mays mentioned on the Easter extravaganza Saturday, and I appreciate the public service workers that donated. We had about 90 baskets, and that was really nice. I saw baskets from a lot of you guys. And I'd also like to mention BRCA and Mike and Lynn Engel, who donated a considerable amount of baskets and their time for that project. And Alicia Dotson, am I right?
Yes.
And for running that. And we had donations from Walmart for baskets. I talked to the store manager there. Really impressed with the gentleman who brought the Huffy bikes. We just never had that before. I thought that was really cool. And thank the Honor Society as well, because that was the majority of the volunteers. And it was pretty wet and muddy, but I think the kids really enjoyed it. And I know I did, and I got to hang out with a lot of you guys. And Councilman Urschel, thank you again for emceeing that and putting that event on. A lot of churches were involved in this. AHOP was there, First Church was there, and then the hundreds of hot dogs and hamburgers at Nazarene.
Yeah.
Just donated out of the goodness of their heart. And that's what makes Xenia such a nice community, is the giving. And there was one more church, a Liberty Worship Service or Christian.
Senior Christian Center.
Xenia Christian Center, yeah. So I went up and thanked all of them for being there. And they didn't have to be there, but they wanted to be there, and they were giving things out to the kids. And I saw most of the kids probably had about 20 to 30 eggs, so they made out pretty good on that one. I also like to remind everyone, this May we do have a ballot measure for the city that helps provide core services. This is a renewal levy, it is not an increase in taxes. So if you could take that under consideration. And Monday I witnessed, I had to stop at McKinley Elementary, and I saw the DARE officer there. I don't know her name, but she had the truck. And, yeah, she's great. The kids were excited. She was giving away pencils and stickers, and I just think that's great positive police presence in our community. So I appreciate that. So other than that, that's all I have tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Councilman Urchel.
Sometimes things that happen on the council happen a little bit out of sight, and I just want to tell you, it was a privilege this year to be part of the budget working group for 2020, and we've met 4 times with the city manager and the finance director and assistant city manager and a number of us on the council, and been going through the priorities line item by line item. And my hope is that as we are preparing our budget for 2020, we'll be able to address some of the longer-term infrastructure challenges that we have. We're looking at a number of efficiencies for municipal services to try and pursue. And not only looking, we talked about tonight as well, not only looking to getting, talent and quality employees, but also assessing current positions. And in the context of providing the services, we're looking at ways to partner with county and state and federal social services and the communities of faith as well here in our city to address some underlying systemic issues that are really causing us some fairly significant financial expense here on our municipal services, and looking to see if we can get some partnerships to address those things. So as well as just a number of exciting expansion plans here within the city. So I just want to say thanks, folks, for letting me be part of that, and Dale's been putting up with me on that group with my ignorant questions, but it's been very, very educational, and I'm looking forward to, we're going to be bringing those priorities to the council for review at the next council meeting, and I think we're in good shape with that.
There's not such a thing as an ignorant question.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Councilman.
I had just a couple other items. Kudos to Charlie Huff for getting us with our prayer walk on Good Friday. It was a terrible weather day, but we had about 40 folks came out, and Charlie did a great job of leading us in prayer around the courthouse that day. And it was just a wonderful time of reflection on Good Friday. I also want to just encourage folks in our community to let you know that an event's coming up this next week called Revive Greene County, where we've got about 20 of our churches here in the city and county are going to be coming together to worship together every evening over at First Church of Christ at 6:30. And I'd encourage you to drop in on one of those. It's going to be an amazing thing to see folks from multiple denominations coming together and worshiping together. And then during the day, they're going to be going out and looking for ways to serve our community as well through prayer and concern with the folks in our community. So exciting time coming up for that. And so if you see groups of four folks wander around the park and other places that may be part of the groups, they may be stopping and asked to pray for you as well. So encourage you to interact with them. And then I would also encourage folks to come out for the National Day of Prayer next Thursday. Once again, great opportunity, and I just want to say kudos to the county administrators and folks. They've done a great job to help facilitate allowing us to use the courthouse steps and be part of that. And I think all our county commissioners are going to be there as well. And I encourage the rest of my council members and city folks, Brent, you may want to just give folks a little bit of time off if they want to go pray at that time or take a late lunch. But I think it's always good for us to stop and reflect as a community and thank God for his benevolence and intercede for our community as well too. So,
Thank you, sir. Councilman Dean.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Had just a couple of things. The AAMA sponsored on Friday night, Good Friday night, the Funeral for Jesus, which was a kind of a theatrical, musical affair, and it was just absolutely stirring. And it was just wonderful. Of course, I'm looking forward to Revive Greene County, as Councilman Urchel has said. Now, what time again was the National Day of Prayer on May 2nd?
It's at 3:30.
3:30 at the courthouse. So we're encouraging folk to do that. And I suppose most folk have seen that I've gone through a considerable amount of pain and pressure this week. My daughter was on trial for a murder that occurred in our backyard on November the 3rd, and she was found guilty and sentenced today to 15 years to life. And I want to just say that while I'm hurting and my family is hurting, we still hurt for the Tarver family that actually lost a daughter on that night. And nothing we can say or do will bring her back. But I would say that while I was disappointed with some things that happened, I was pleased as I could be with sheriff's deputies that was transporting my daughter back and forth, and just the way everything worked in the courthouse. And there were more people from the Tarver family than there were from the Wallace family, but the whole thing, as much pain as we were all in, it was, everybody was respectful and of the court, respectful of the process, and I thank God that it's over, but needless to say, there's some pain to come for us. And I told the wife today, I said, I don't think I'm going to go to council meeting tonight. And she said, oh, yes, you are. And I said, certainly you're right. I've got a responsibility that I will continue to fulfill for as long as I can. And needless to say, we're praying for the Tarver family, our family, and all the people that are hurt and involved. Mr. City Manager, how are we going to transition to the special
I would
session?
recommend you adjourn from the regular session, take maybe a couple-minute break, and then we can reconvene for the special.
And we will do that in here.
Yep.
All right. And do we need a motion in regard to adjourn, Madam
Motion for adjournment.
Law Director?
They're just recessing.
Depends on how you want to do it.
I
They're
think
just recessing. The chair has the right to call a
we can just recess.
your session on building inspection when that'd be part of this meeting. And then you adjourn
It's
it.
21 minutes after 7. We'll reconvene at 7:30. We're in recess.